Good morning, this is Joe at Sequant Capital. It's Wednesday the 11th of October and today I am providing an update on a recent report that I wrote which was titled Crash Course on Cryptocurrencies. Now this report is available and will be available to download if you click the link at the end of the video. The report itself covers a lot of information about cryptocurrencies. But today we're going to be focusing on the technical elements and the price action of the coins that we've covered and provide a technical update on those. So first of all, we're going to start with Bitcoin. Now what we have here is a one-day chart, a candlestick chart, green obviously going up, grey going down. Now taking a look at this from a technical perspective, when we wrote the report back in September, we were just exiting this kind of mini crash phase that we saw on Bitcoin. So before then we obviously had been trending very nicely higher. We saw this huge move up where the coin got to just below that key 5,000 level, and since then we saw quite a large corrective move back lower. Now that also married up with these highs back here that you can see, so that held successfully as a support level. And interestingly enough, from a Fibonacci perspective, we also fell to around about the 61.8% level before rebounding sharply back up towards this 5,000 level. Now we still haven't touched the 5,000 level. Obviously this is psychologically quite important, and it looks as though we are going to make an attempt at trying to overcome that level in the very short term. Now in terms of are we overbought, are we oversold? If we look historically at Bitcoin, we have seen levels of sort of 81 to 83 on the RSI, and this was back in August when we saw the first big spike up to around about 43. We then saw a corrective move lower, followed by the next push up to 4979. At which point the RSI didn't quite get as high, but it was still up around about the 80 level. So typically 70 means overbought on the RSI. When we're looking at Bitcoin, you know, we have seen levels of 80, so we're probably looking for it to go back up to there again before we consider it to be really overbought. Now as it stands at the moment, the RSI is around about 68, so suggests that we could see another push higher in the very short term. Obviously this move higher has happened without any real corrective move lower, so you know, we are aware of the fact that there could be a corrective move, but as it stands at the moment, things are looking pretty strong, and I would envisage that we will see a challenge of this 5,000 level quite imminently. Next up, taking a look at Ethereum. Not quite as strong at the moment as Bitcoin, as you can clearly see. We are not near these highs that we saw back in June and also again back in September. That comes in just below that $400 mark. So again, a critically important resistance up there. We are sort of languishing a little bit, moving sort of sideways, chopping between a mini range at the moment between sort of 286 to 316. A break above, and you'd suggest that we were back on our way towards that $400 mark, in line, I guess, with the dominant trend. If we see a break lower, then we do have the support of the trend line down around about 264 as it stands at the moment. Obviously that will be a moving target as things progress, but for now we're kind of a bit of a holding pattern really on this pair, but overall the bias does remain bullish. Clearly we have these these higher lows that are in place, and while that remains the case, then you know we are going to continue to expect to see a push towards this $400 mark over the medium term. Next up, we have Bitcoin Cash, one of the newest players on the crypto market. As you can see back here, the currency listed back in the back end of July, come to the market around about $800, and then immediately began to tumble down to lows of 141. The roller coaster then continued, and we saw a move back up to print actually a new high there at 950, and then since then we've seen kind of a miserable kind of decline lower, and clearly you know it is trending lower as we can clearly see. Now what we're forming here is a bit of a wedge pattern on the daily chart. We've got this downtrend containing the price action or any advances to the upside, and down here we have this low that was printed back in September on the 15th, and that is holding up the price as we speak at around about 297. We did actually print an intraday low on the 9th of October, and that low went down to 282. Now if we see a closing move below this 299 figure and below this 297 low that we printed on the 9th of October, then we'd have to expect to see a further decline, probably back down towards these all-time lows that were printed shortly after the currency listed, and that comes in around about 143. So clearly Bitcoin Cash has work to do. It is out of favor at the moment when you compare it to Bitcoin itself. I mean, it's not all bad. If it does break above this trend line here, then we could see quite an explosive move higher, and that could happen very quickly as well. But clearly for now the trend is bearish, and any short-term advice would be really to sell into strength. We are coming to a kind of inflection point now whereby if we break to new lows, further decline probably expected, and also if we break above the trend resistance, then we could see an explosive move higher. So probably a watch and wait for now rather than any definitive action to take on Bitcoin Cash. Next up we have Litecoin. Now Litecoin again is another cryptocurrency that appears to be kind of stuck in a bit of a range. We've had these big explosive moves higher, but then obviously we've had the big crash down as well that we've seen in most of these cryptocurrencies throughout September. Now we had a big turnaround here, a big wick on this candle as you can see, but the close was above the long-term trend line that's established itself there, and now what we have is price sort of to and fro in between this kind of range here, with the further support of the long-term uptrend. Now further sideways action is probably likely, given the technical setup at the moment, unless there's kind of any industry or fundamental news that is likely to change the outlook for cryptocurrencies. So for now we're going to kind of expect to see ranges between 45 up to 57. The bias, however, over the medium term would be for a break above this 57 level, and for the long-term uptrend to resume. And if we can get above that level, then we'll be looking for some sort of Fibonacci retracement, potentially to offer us a target on the upside. Long term, I would be looking for a retest of the all-time highs, which currently sits at 93.7. A break above this range here, then I think the immediate target would be for a move here to around about 63.5. Beyond that, up to around about 70, and then we sort of heading up to 80, and then probably back up to all-time highs. But for now, very much stuck in the doldrums. Not really a lot happening here. So in terms of trading it in the short term, I think need to be very careful and be aware of this range that is currently taking shape. So looking at Ripple next, that appears to have come to life in recent weeks when compared to some of the other coins that we've been looking at. What we had been seeing with Ripple was it was stuck in this kind of big wedge pattern, whereby it was toing and froing, sort of bumbling around these lows here around about 0.14, 0.15. It established itself here, had a big bounce up, and then since then we've been sort of steadily heading higher. Now what we've also done in the meantime is taken out this big downtrend line that had been in place really since hitting those highs back in May. We've crashed through that with some vigor. We've taken out this previous high here on a closing basis as well, above 26. And we in the last couple of days have seen a retest also of that downtrend line, which now could provide a platform for a further extension higher. In terms of the initial targets, I'd be looking for a move to 0.29, which is roughly around about the high that we saw back in August, and beyond that a further kind of corrective move higher up to around about 0.34. So things looking okay for Ripple at the moment, probably the best of the bunch in terms of upside potential. Referring back to Bitcoin, obviously that looks very good from a technical perspective, but it is encountering that major resistance at 5,000, which could attract selling interest. But in terms of the short-term outlook, Ripple actually looking quite good at the moment. The next crypto on our report is Manero. Now looking at this from a technical perspective, we saw quite a large move up in August, as we did with most of the other coins. But since then we've seen a pretty steady decline. There's been no real impetus from the bulls to take this any higher. We seem to have plateaued around about the $85 mark. Now this is holding firm for now. We've also got the uptrend line which is catching up with the price action as well. So for now it's holding steady around about 85. We really do need to see some kind of bounce materialize soon. because if we do see a simultaneous breakdown of this 85 support level as well as the uptrend that's been in place since the beginning of July, then it could lead to a further correction lower. In terms of targets on the downside, if it does break, I mean 77 is kind of the last line of defense for the bulls. If that is taken out, then we could see a move down to around about 55 over the medium term. But for now, the case is still bullish. The 85 level is holding, and we would expect to see a rebound from here, as people look at this and believe it potentially is too cheap at these levels. So going by the medium term trend, we're quite happy with how that looks at the moment. 85 is the crucial level, and the last line of defense we believe comes in around about 77. If those levels are taken out, then the case definitely switched to the more bearish side, but for now we're going to stick with the mildly bullish view. Lastly for today, we're taking a look at Zcash. Again, another coin that seems to be sort of range bound at present, although the range in this respect is quite a lot larger. This low here that we have around about 144 has been hit on 3 previous occasions, and it's held steady so far. It has also been the base for further moves higher, as we can see in this period here, getting up to around about 315. Subsequently, that was followed by a big corrective move back down to this 144, 145 level, and again a push back up to the sort of 312, 315 level. So expect more range bound activity, I would suggest, in the short to medium term. We do have the long term uptrend that comes into play as well. I think by the time the price action were to reach that level, for now we'd be looking at around about 200. So I would say that would be a key level to watch out for. Obviously 200 also being a fairly psychologically important level for any technicians out there. So for the time being, I think more sideways chop probably expected in Zcash. Be careful of this one because the range obviously is quite a lot larger than some of the others that we've explained today. In terms of a target for a buy entry, I think 200 seems like a pretty decent level to have a look. Below that, obviously, we do have this support around about 144, which could be, another interesting buy level if it were to get there. But for now, I think more sideways chop. I think if we can overcome this level that we've mentioned here, the 315 level on a closing basis, then the likelihood is that we will see a move back up to these all-time highs that come in at around about 435. So for now, I will be looking for a buy on dips on Zcash rather than looking just to get involved right at this moment. Okay, that concludes the technical update on the cryptocurrencies today for our report that we wrote in September. The end of this video, there will be some links for you to click to subscribe to more content like this, to more updates on the report that we've written and other reports as well. There'll be more information on Sequant Capital and our partners Exante, who we use to trade cryptocurrencies through. And for more information, feel free to get in touch. Thanks for listening.